Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for being here. Again, my name is Carley Markovitz, and I'm a principal with Rebel, and I co-lead our Payments, Mobility, and Insights team in the U.S. Happy to share more about that. Also, I will address the elephant in the room. For the 90% of people that have already heard about my injury, I tore my Achilles a month ago, and so I do have to make a quick plug. I know we're here to talk about transportation tech, flying cars, automated vehicles, but the iWalk 3.0 is single-handedly dignifying my transportation experience right now. So I just have to say personal mobility is very much part of my identity, and very grateful to just have the chance to be up on stage, manage to get up here, and very excited to be part of this discussion today. I was asked to moderate this panel because I've been working with Los Angeles 2028 for the last 7 years as a consultant, helping to secure the bid and begin our planning for the 2028 games here in LA. And so having this great panel to discuss what's happening for planning for what will be the largest event ever held worldwide in Paris in 2024 and Los Angeles in 2028, talking about not just how you meet the moment, but also how you think about planning and investing in legacy that will transform transportation in these regions for years to come. So let's just dig in. I'd like to do a quick introduction of who we have on stage, and then we're going to share a little bit more shortly. So to my left here, Mark Vallianatos, who is an executive officer with the Office of Strategic Innovation at LA Metro. We have Alexandra Dublanche, who is vice president with Choose Paris Region. And we have Sam Morrissey, who is vice president of transportation for Los Angeles 2028. So I'm going to let them expand upon their introductions. To start, just want to say there are a lot of different players around a very large table when it comes to planning for the Olympic and Paralympic Games. So I'd like to just hear, we'll start with Mark, where do you sit around this proverbial table, and what is your organization's role in helping to welcome the world to LA and Paris?
Thanks, Carly, and good to see everyone here today. So as she mentioned, I work for the Office of Innovation at LA Metro, and I've been a member since we formed an internal steering committee with multiple departments at Metro to prepare for our role in the Olympics. And so I'm trying to channel kind of the wisdom of crowds from across the agency in my answers and my discussion. If I say anything that's weird or foolish, that's on me, but trying to reflect the fact that this is a joint effort within Metro. And Metro's role in the Games, we see it as we are the lead mobility partner with LA28. And we have there, between mobility, it's sandwiched between lead and partner, right? So we can help lead this because we are the major transit operator, planner, builder, funder in the region, but also we know it's also a partnership with the other major partners, Metrolinx, LADOT, Caltrans, plus all the other transportation agencies throughout Southern California. And we're excited to be a part of that. And our other role has been to sort of initiate and then partner on a list of projects that all these agencies believe would help the region deliver a great transportation experience during the Olympics and Paralympics. And so that actually was just taken, a list of 50 priority projects, adding up to almost $11 billion, was taken to one of our board committees just this week. So it's starting to get input from our leadership and from the public. And then we'd be excited to, again, team up in LA and go to the federal government, to the state government, to try to get money to start building that out.
Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. So I'm Vice President of the Paris region, which is the second financer of the Olympic Games. In terms of infrastructures, we are putting 240 million euro on renovating and constructing infrastructure for the Olympic Games, especially on transportation. We have the Public Authority on Transportation. And our role is really to care about the legacy of the Olympic Games so that it benefits all the people living already in the Paris region years and years after the Olympic Games. I'm also the president of the promotion agency, which is called Choose Paris Region. And the goal of the promotion agency is to attract investors to the Paris region, and we think that the Olympic Games are a major opportunity for international companies to come to see, to test, to experiment, and we want to facilitate this. So starting 2023, we will start inviting companies to do explorer tours. So if you're interested, come to see us and really benefit from this Paris Olympics opportunity to then bring it back to LA for 2028. So I think it could be very interesting, especially because we also have in 2023 the Rugby World Cup. So it can be a good test for us and for you. So this is my role, and I'm really glad again to be here. Thank you.
And again, I'm Sam Morrissey. I'm a Vice President of Transportation at LA28. So I sit within what's called the Organizing Committee of the Olympic Games, the OCOG. LA28, in partnership with the City of Los Angeles, pursued the bid for the 2028 Games, and LA28, as the OCOG, is now responsible for delivering those games, along with our delivery partners with agencies such as Metro. Part of our agreement that we signed with the International Olympic Committee, or IOC, required us to establish a host city contract with the City of Los Angeles. As a part of that contract, we set up a number of commitments in terms of how we're going to deliver the games, both for the athletes, the officials, the international federations of sports that will be there, the dignitaries from all the different countries represented, as well as the spectators and the workforce. Other commitments that we've made also pertain to the city itself. Our games are very unique in the sense that our bid was made with the statement that Los Angeles could essentially host the Olympic and Paralympic Games next week. We have all the venues, we have all the transportation infrastructure that we would need to move around. So our bid is known as what's called a no-build games. Now that does not mean that we're not building anything, and that does not mean that we're not supporting transportation projects. So to the point that Mark made, we're looking for ways to maximize the investments that the Games will have to deliver the short-term Olympic and Paralympic Games in July and into August of 2028, but also how to leave a legacy, a positive legacy. I've been probably, at my job and in this role, the shortest of anyone on this stage here. But I've also lived and worked in Los Angeles for coming up on 25 years, and a number of those years I lived here without my own car. I shared a car with my spouse. I relied on public transportation. I did a lot of walking and riding, and then later scootering and other different modes. Maybe someday I might fly between venues, who knows. But I think the legacy opportunity of the Games, and from where I sit, is how to move those spectators and workforce using a public transportation system here in Los Angeles. And I'm really excited for our role as sort of the convening force to actually convene that through the requirements that we have to deliver this transportation system, to move all the people that are going to be here for the Games, and then to leave that legacy of mobility.
Thank you. Well, I'll build off of what Sam was just saying, because I think it's a lot of great commitments have been made for both Paris and LA around what we'd like to achieve both in the moment and then in the long term. But it's also fair to say that the world was a very different place when each of you bid and secured the Games. It was back in 2017, and we all know the world turned upside down with a little thing called COVID these last few years. So I'm really curious to maybe hear, especially starting with Paris, Alexandra, from how you're seeing success and the way you define success in Paris for the Games. What does that look like, and how has COVID changed the way that you're thinking about your priorities?
So the situation right now is that we have already a very dense transportation network, much more than here. We have around 40 million daily commuters. I think we are the fourth most important urban transportation network. The COVID changed this a little bit, but now people are back in public transportation. Around 90% of people are back. Plus, we have some energy problems right now in France due to the war in Ukraine and other problems. So people don't want to use their car, so they are going back in public transportation. This being said, we need to go further. Even if we have this very dense transportation network, of course there will be like more people coming for the Olympic Games, so we need to go further. We have this huge project that started many years ago, Grand Paris Express. The role is to connect especially the suburbs of Paris, around Paris, between them. So Olympic sites also between them, and also in the direction of Paris. It will double the metro lines. So it's a huge project, like 70 metro station more than we have right now, which is already very dense. So the Olympics are the way for us to accelerate this project, to secure public funding also, because you never know with public funding on big project like this. So now we don't have choice anymore, and we need to accelerate this. Also, our goal is not only to transport people anyway, it's doing it in a sustainable way, in a clean way. We have an objective to reach 100% carbon-free transport by 2030. So it means not only like metro, trains, but also, for instance, bikes. We want people to be able to reach Olympic sites with bikes. So we're investing a lot on this. You have this huge metro network around Paris. We want to double the lines, the main lines, with bike lanes. So it has started already. We put 300 million euros on it, and by 2030 we will have more than 700 kilometers of these bike lanes, allowing to connect also big sites. We are also putting a lot of efforts on innovation, like hydrogen, trying it with our transportation fleet, as we have a lot of vehicles. So these are all the challenges we are facing right now, doubling the transportation network, and also in a clean way by other ways than basic metro.
So building off the energy question, it's also important to contextualize not only just the moment in time that you're experiencing in Europe, but also as we prepare for the accelerating climate crisis. We just heard Gabe and Polly Trottenberg talking about, the future for transit electrification here in the US. You both, Paris and LA, have very ambitious goals when it comes to zero emissions transportation. And actually the 2030 date applies here for LA Metro as well. So I'd love to hear a little bit, Mark, maybe you can start, and Alexandra, feel free to add on about how the games is helping you to either calibrate or accelerate your zero emissions goals, and how do you draw a line in the sand around investing in these new solutions when you know you need to build at scale?
Yeah, thank you. We do have a goal of having 100% zero-emission bus fleet by 2030. And we have one of our BRT lines, the orange line, is already electrified. The silver line, which is another similar partly fixed route BRT line, is in the process, as are three of our bus divisions. Our office, some of my colleagues are working with partners inside the agency and also partners in the private sector to explore what's the best delivery models to get us to 100%, to get the rest of the bus fleet electrified. Because there's obviously challenges in a large region with some hills and hot summers to make sure there's reliable service above all, and then also zero emission for the climate, for clean air, for innovation. And so we're looking at things like, if we think about, we have the bus, we have some need for charging or for fuel. How do you put those pieces together, and which of them do we do ourselves, and which of them do we explore partnerships? Someone can imagine having where we're procuring, we're maintaining, we're buying, we're operating our own buses, but that there's some flexibility with the charging system, for example, where it's leased on some kind of performing contract, or we do different methods and different routes. So it's a good time for researchers, for private sector folks to engage with us to help advise us on that. And then, of course, information sharing with other major regions that are doing this, so we all are learning from best practices.
Yeah, so there are several ways. That's what I said. Of course, doubling the public transportation system helps to reach this 100% carbon-free transport by 2030. I want to come back on bikes. I know in LA, perhaps it's not so easy as in Paris, but apart from these bike lanes, we also saw with COVID, there was a period where people were afraid to come back in public transportation. So bikes went up, and we benefited from it to push it a little bit more by, for instance, creating the largest European rental system of electrical bikes. So you rent it for 6 months, and then you test, you like it, hopefully, and then we help you to buy one, for instance. This is a whole policy that we are trying to push. And this helps in the sense we are changing all the buses for electric. Of course, these experiments of hydrogen, and also innovation is for us very important. You will have another roundtable after this one about urban air mobility, which needs to be clean, and we are experiencing it right now, like eVTOLs. There is a first experiment around Paris right now, and we want it to be ready for 2024. So innovation is also something that we are very interested in, and to reach this decarbonized transportation system.
And if I can add, Carley, so we see a tremendous opportunity from LA28 as an organizing committee with our responsibility to deliver a spectator transportation system to move hundreds of thousands of spectators. On the busiest day, we anticipate moving almost 500,000 spectators to venues across a 3-county region. Now, moving those spectators is different than operating a countywide bus system on a daily basis. It's built around the venues and getting spectators from where they are to the venues. It's not necessarily connecting housing and places of education and places of work. However, many of those venues are very close to those places. For example, Exposition Park is adjacent to a major university. Downtown Los Angeles has a venue. So every way that we can overlay our operation to match what might be necessary from electrification or from Metro's zero emission goals, we want to maximize that opportunity. We will also need to essentially roughly double the fleet of buses that are in the Los Angeles region during the games to move people around. But do they have to be buses? Could they be micromobility? Is there a percentage of those movements that can be achieved by bicycles or other movements? Can we do all that in the context of what is called a national security level event where we're trying to manage movement? But can we also do it in a way that perhaps we bring in zero emission buses of whichever type of fuel source makes the most sense, and then those buses go out to municipal agencies across the country to expand their fleets and to help achieve national goals. So we just see it really as a catalyst, and we're really exploring that.
Great, thank you. Well, this is all kind of coming to a head here around why we're all here, which is to talk about transportation technology. And I think Sam's alluded to the sheer scale of what it is to put on an Olympic Games. I mean, we're talking about around 2 million, new individuals coming to Los Angeles and Paris. You're talking about 15 to 20 million tickets being sold, an unprecedented amount of movement, and around an unprecedented amount of people, descending upon these respective regions. So there is a need, of course, to ensure reliable transportation at scale, because point A to point B, as someone who has been a spectator at 2 Winter Olympics, you spend an awful lot of time in transport. So I think what I would like to get to here is thinking about transportation technology. What do you think the opportunities are, and what are the problems that you hope that transportation tech can most solve for you? And really just how we can think about that in terms of what is good to showcase, because there's value to showcase at the Olympic Games, but there's also a real need to scale and ensure reliability. So I'd love to start with Alexandra and then bring it back to LA.
So for us, tech is a real opportunity to reach our goals. Really, that's why we want to attract such companies. If I take the example of urban air mobility, we did something very open, because yesterday I was meeting with City Hall officials, and they were telling me, but did you focus on French companies? And we were, no, we didn't focus only on French companies. We wanted to open it so that the best tech companies from around the world come, and we had many applications. And so it's a German company who won and who is right now experimenting these flights with eVTOLs around Paris. And so for us, it's really an opportunity. Tech is an opportunity in hydrogen, in urban air mobility. And transportation for us, public transportation, will be for us the most important legacy of the Olympic Games, really, and also to connect least underserved areas around Paris, because you have Paris, you perhaps have this image of Paris as a very rich like city, or we have the first economic region in Europe. But around Paris, you have areas like I think here in LA, who are a little poorer and who have more social difficulties. And so public transportation will be for us the most important thing to connect these people and to bring public service also to these areas. So tech can be a big help, not only, but yeah, our goal is really that it stays for years and years, of course, and it makes people's life better, of course.
Yeah, you know, as an innovation office employee, I'm excited by this as well. And a few categories that we're hopeful on. One is we need to integrate ticketing for the game events with metro and other public transportation tickets to make it super easy for someone's buying a ticket to go to a sports event, that it comes bundled with a way to get there that's not driving. As Sam mentioned, no one's going to be able to drive to any venues, and that's going to be a revolution in Southern California, but it's one we're eager to do. And expanding beyond that, we're looking at what is the future of payment more broadly, so that people, even if it's not a bundled pass with an event ticket, they can easily figure out, do trip planning, do payment. That's an exciting opportunity for the public and private sector together. Another one is essentially data analytics. So to expand upon the kind of vision for how Los Angeles will manage this, moving the athletes and the spectators and normal Angelinos during the games, there'll probably be an outer ring of park and ride lots where people can drive to and then get on Metrolink or Metro. There'll be an inner ring of kind of mobility hubs where you'll be able to get a bus or rent a bike or something to get closer to the venues. So how do we model in advance where to put those, what kind of transportation assets to have there, and then how do you monitor in real time the traffic conditions on the roads, where the buses are, all this kind of thing. So that's a great thing. And then I also always try to say when I'm talking about innovation that technology also means existing best practice, non-smart technology that we haven't yet done in Los Angeles. So just across the street, we have the Regional Connector, which is a project that is undergrounding 2 light rail lines that make it easier for us to use and increase ridership. And that's like an 80-year-old best practice in cities in Europe, but that isn't any less reason to celebrate as an innovation here. And my last point on this is our office has 2 pathways that, as a private sector partner, you can bring ideas to us on technology. One is the unsolicited proposal process, where you can basically send us an idea that Metro should be doing, and if we'll talk about it inside, and it can often lead to a procurement to actually do that. And that's a sort of unique capacity we have here at LA Metro. And the second is, you may have heard on the first day, we're launching something called the Visionary Seed Fund in the spring. That will be money that has to go to a public transportation operator in LA County, but can have a host of partners on that project to try something new. And the theme in the first years will be on ridership, but that, well, I think, connects to a lot of good goals for the Olympics as well.
And just to kind of make 2 last points on this. One, I think technology, I'm most interested in seeing how technology can improve the event attendance experience in Los Angeles. If you go to any event in Los Angeles, if you go to any Friendsgiving dinner or cocktail party, the first thing everybody asks about, and Saturday Night Live spoofed this, is how did you get here? What was the traffic? How was the condition? Generally not a positive or super upbeat conversation, but it can be. And there's great examples of that today. Metro and the city operate a great service to Dodger Stadium. It's called the Dodger Stadium Express. It carries roughly 3 to 5% of the attendees at any baseball game. If we want to get to 100% of attendees at a sporting event, we're going to need to leverage those existing technologies and look at new technologies that can make that more effective. And to a point that Alexandra made, I think those technologies that will make attending an event easier and a more pleasant experience will also make it more pleasant for the people that rely on transportation and public transit on a day-to-day basis. Things like reliability of service, improved bus speeds, improved bus access. So I think using the games to make a more positive experience for people to get to venues via public transportation is also a way to address the broader challenges of improving the mobility experience of Angelinos. I'm really excited about that opportunity.
Thank you. Well, this is all exciting to hear about kind of what are the priorities, what are the opportunities. I think many of you, and certainly me, is like, okay, well, how are we going to go do it? So dare I say the P word, procurement. What are you all thinking about? I'd really like to come back to Sam and then Alexandra, because Mark alluded to some great avenues, which I was going to ask about myself within the Office of Strategic Innovation, about how you actually foster these opportunities and bring these to market, and then thinking about scale. So Sam, what is LA28's stance? Where do you sit in terms of procurement around the roles and the things that you're going to need to bring in, and then how are you going to be relying on your regional partners? And Alexandra, same for Paris.
Sure, and I've talked a little bit about the different parties that we have to move, but we can think about it in sort of two ways. There's a closed system, and that's all the people affiliated with making the games happen. So we talk around the office, if Michael Phelps doesn't show up for a swimming event and the camera crews aren't there to film it and the judges aren't there to judge it, that event will be a failure on the eyes of the world. So how do we move those people that actually put on the events? For the Olympic and Paralympic Games, we're talking on an order of about 50,000 people that we have to move. So we're going to need dedicated fleets. I'm excited to see what happens in Paris, because I think they're trying some innovative things around moving those games family people and changing that and modifying that and modernizing it a bit, maybe relying more on public transportation or leveraging that. Second is the open system, the public system. That's the spectators as well as the workforce. And I think from that end, from a procurement standpoint, traditionally in past games in the United States, it was done through either coach buses or public transportation buses brought in from other entities. Most recently in 2002 in Salt Lake City, they used a program called the Borrowed Bus Program, which was actually federally funded through actual federal legislation. We're pursuing something similar, and Metro has stepped up and stated they want to be the provider of that service, and I think we're very interested in supporting that. They definitely have the best experience, as Mark said early on, as the mobility provider in Los Angeles, so we want to support that, but we also want to make sure that it's something that can be achieved. It's very different than running a countywide bus system. It's an event system. So from a procurement standpoint, I think there also might be opportunities to think about how do you run a separate system? How does that fleet management system work? How does that integrate with our regional traffic management centers? How do we also integrate incident management, the security aspects around incident response and control? And how do we do that in a way that's not sort of overbearing on the general public, but also in a way that makes the games work? So there's going to be a lot of opportunities around transportation and really exciting public-private partnerships.
So I'm not representing the Paris Olympics Committee, so on procurement and so on, it's their job. What we do as a Paris region, a public authority, and also as a promotion agency on an economic level, is that we do, like for instance, call for projects. We will identify specific technologies that we think we could see during the Olympics. For instance, I was here like 3 or 4 years ago, and I got my first meetings with US companies for urban air mobility, if I come back to this example. And we thought, okay, this could be the Paris Olympic Games could be an opportunity to showcase and to experiment, to test this technology. And so we did this call for projects where everybody can apply. And then a German company won and is right now experimenting with our partners at ADP, which is the authority of airports, RTP, which is the authority for metro lines and so on. They are all with a public-private also experimenting these flights. And so that's how we do. And we want the Olympic Games to be economic development lever, like it's an opportunity for us to contribute to economic development in the Paris region. So we do it in a very open manner, not only French focused, of course, but like talking to people, making people come next year. I'm saying it again, if you're interested to come to Paris. There is always a good reason to come to Paris, and it can be a good one, and to really make you see what is the economic ecosystem right now, because we don't only have museums, we have a strong economic ecosystem, and make you want to come during or before the Olympics, invest, and then bring it back here. So that's how we deal with it.
Thank you. So we've been talking a lot about welcoming the world. Millions of people are going to descend on your respective regions, but let's not forget there's millions of people that are already here and they're already in Paris. And in the 84 games, you can use an example from LA, there was a lot of messaging that it was a success because there was no traffic, but we encourage people to stay home. And it might be a very different world in terms of how we want to message the games and create inclusivity for residents, and also ensure that they can continue to live, work, and play while the games are going on. So maybe we can let's start with Mark here. Tell me a little bit about how you think we should be balancing that sort of inherent tension between welcoming the world and creating a really inclusive games for visitors, as well as a great place for residents to enjoy as well.
I think there is a tension, but there's also an opportunity. So to start with the former, we know from who our riders are, that they are primarily low income. They're the kind of people who could not work from home during COVID, and they do need to rely on our system daily to go where they need to go. And so we think that we will partner and help lead a robust TDM campaign to encourage people to change time of day of travel, change mode of travel, stay home if they can, but not everyone will be able to. So we need to make sure, to Sam's point, that there is multiple systems to get to the venues, but also get to your job, get to the doctor, pick up your kids from school, whatever it might be. And in terms of inclusivity, we're trying to center that. One of the 4 goals of the board for Metro's role in the Olympics is specifically accessibility. We want you, Carley, and anyone who's temporarily or permanently needs special ways of getting places, or is visually impaired, or any other special ability to be able to participate, especially with the Paralympics being here for the first time in 2028. So we hope to leave a lasting legacy in improved infrastructure and also technology. I should mention, circling back to that, what is the technology that allows everyone to participate equally? And then we are in designing our service, in evaluating projects we want to get funded. We put a very, very high weight on equity, drawing upon our own mapping of equity-focused communities in LA County, which is based on demographics, poverty, and not owning cars. And we expect a large amount of investments to go to those communities because most, like 90% of the venues or 95% of the venues, are in or adjacent to lower-income neighborhoods. So that's the tension, but the opportunity is also there in the sense of leaving a better system that will primarily help the people who do not own cars and need other ways of getting around.
Our main focus is really the legacy for the people already living in the Paris region. Everything that we do must benefit people already living there. And again, the Olympics are a good way to accelerate some big projects. We have like the Grand Paris Express, which is this huge network, this extension of the metro network. So, for instance, with this network, Grand Paris Express, you have 70 metro stations, additional metro stations. 42 will be in areas today that are really who don't have good transportation systems, who feel a little bit apart from the dynamism of the Paris region. And in this neighborhood, you have a younger population, a more precarious population. So the games accelerating this project will benefit mainly to these people and to these areas. And the games are really key in our ambition to build a more inclusive Paris region, also greener. It accelerates the transition of our transportation network, making it cleaner. So everything, but we need to tell it to people. You know, urban air mobility, for instance, public acceptance for us is very important. It must not be seen as something for rich people who can have flying taxis and that's it. So we put the focus for now on medical uses, for instance, or emergency uses. So we must explain people the benefits for them of what we are doing, and I think it's our main focus right now.
And from my perspective on the topic of keeping Los Angeles moving while the games are occurring, I think first, to the point of making it a car-free games, to getting everyone to take public transit, that's not just going to happen at the flick of a switch on July 1, 2028, that everybody in Los Angeles decides, I'm not going to drive today, I'm going to follow their commands. Because if you've experienced anything in Los Angeles, everybody will either tell their Uber driver to keep driving past the gates or try and roll down their window and talk to the people controlling the permits to say, can I get in here? So we need to actually get that behavior change happening sooner. So to Mark's point about integrating ticketing with events, how can we make that happen? How can we support making that happen? How can we support other efforts to provide better reliability in transit service, better regularity, better comfort and safety, better wayfinding and information on how you actually get on that, and actually how do you use the system? How do you pay for it and integrate that? Second, I think Metro has stated, I don't know the number exactly, but it's between 80 and 90% of our venues are either within or proximate to these equity-focused communities. So when we're planning the closures and security and mobility enhancements that will happen around our venues, we have to do so in a way that does not impede the lives of people. And as Mark said, those are the communities that are most reliant on public transit. Those are the communities that are making 2 and 3 transfers and commuting multiple hours to get to their jobs, and those are the types of jobs that you can't be late for, you will be fired. So how do we ensure that the transit system still operates? How do we ensure that on top of this spectator system that we're going to build in, Metro can still provide the day-to-day service with that reliability? And that's again where the games can have that legacy. We're going to build out a network of dedicated lanes to move between venues. So can we use those lanes to also move the buses while we're doing that? Can we actually provide some enhancement? And then can that enhancement stay in place after the games? And then I think lastly, I think the games themselves, we're going to need thousands of people, workers, paid workers, and volunteers to support the mobility aspects of the game. And as the son of a railroad brake inspector and the stepson of a taxi driver, I've had a tremendous professional career through the doors of transportation that I would have not known about. So if we can get anybody engaged in the games from a transportation perspective, get them bought into the idea that they're working at the Olympics in transportation, they're keeping Los Angeles moving, they're changing the way that mobility is viewed in Los Angeles, I think that opens up tremendous doors of opportunity to people. So really excited.
Thank you. And I'm so glad that we brought that together between the demand management and also the fundamental connection to equity, and ensuring that we're prioritizing the most vulnerable and historically marginalized and underinvested communities, which in many ways do intersect with a lot of the venues, at least here in Los Angeles. And I think what we've been talking about for many years is this idea of dispersed benefits but concentrated burdens, where in and around the venues there is going to be a lot of impact. And so you really have to think intentionally about how do you support those communities, ensure that they can do what they need to do, and if not, create this opportunity, right, around universal basic mobility and a lot of the great conversations taking place here. How do you create these alternatives and really invest and create and uplift communities that might even have better access after the games? So it's exciting to see this connection for sure. I want to create a few minutes for audience Q&A, but I do have one question I'm hoping that Alexandra can leave our friends from Paris with, or friends from Los Angeles with. Since Paris is somehow only 2 years away from hosting the games, I'd love if you can share a word of wisdom or two from our friends here and in the audience around any early lessons learned or best practices that you'd like them to think about as they prepare for the road to 2028.
I think I made it pretty clear is to think in long-term way, years and years, but I know you are doing it. Everything that we do now must benefit our territories and where we live after that. I talked a lot about doubling the network, but also making it more reliable, more on time, which is also a big issue. And so thinking also about the impact on sustainability and all these issues that we are dealing, and seeing the Olympic Games as a catalyst, an accelerator, and seize any opportunity on innovation. But I can see that, of course, you are already doing it pretty well. So, but you can also watch us and see what we will not work, and then correct after that. Hopefully not so much. And but yeah, it's a huge opportunity for our states, our regions, and I'm really glad that we will live these times.
Great. So I guess that's an open invitation to everyone. We'll see you all in Paris. Looking forward to it. Rapid fire, 2 questions, less than a minute. If you had a magic wand, what is the one thing that you wish that you and your agency could have to help you support in your delivery role for the games? I'll start with Sam. We'll work our way down.
was hoping you wouldn't start with me. If I had a magic wand, probably a network of exclusive bus lanes and toll lane facilities region-wide that connects to all the venues.
So I know that right now it's very frustrating for people who live in the Paris region to see all this construction. So with a magic wand, I would like to be in 2024 and to see everything already ready. And I just want to come back once again on the previous question. Lesson learned, it's also a good opportunity to imagine what will be your city, your region in 2030 or in the future. And I think you need to think about this, like what will it be 10 years after the Olympic Games? And I think it's a very interesting question to ask yourself also.
I guess I would like to have, and this is my own, this is not the collective wisdom of Metro, this is my personal opinion, to have like a public engineering agency within Metro or within a partner agency that will help us build stuff quicker and cheaper because the costs are accelerating so rapidly, so we can get all this great stuff done.
All right, last question. One word or one phrase, fill in the blank. I hope our games transportation legacy is. Mark.
I hope the legacy is a permanent mode shift so we become a more multimodal city, and I'll take a combination of London, which saw a big boost in cycling after it, and Rio, which saw a huge increase in transit. If we get those two.
So I hope that our games transportation legacy is efficient, modern, and a decarbonized network that will help us to build a safer and more inclusive region.
I hope that the games help to finally erase the title of Los Angeles as the car capital of the world.
Amazing. Well, thank you all. Lovely discussion. I do want to open it up in the last couple minutes to see if there's any questions from the audience.
My name is Thomas Small. I'm the former mayor of Culver City, and I'm also one of the chairs of the Sustainability Council at LA Metro. And I'm sorry to start out with such a political question, but Sam, you kind of set me up for it. In Culver City, we have, some of you may know, we've been pretty progressive in our transportation efforts in Culver City, and we've recently put in bike lanes and transit lanes in Culver City. And as I understand it, Metro has planned some of the BRTs for the Olympics specifically to use those transit lanes that go through Culver City, as we're in such a central place on the west side of Los Angeles. But in the recent election, we got a lot of pushback about them, and so there's now a council majority that's talking about removing the transit lanes. So my ask is for you guys to come and help us explain to our council and to our constituents there the value of having those transit lanes and how dependent the regional network is on having those through there. So Mark and Sam, I'll be following up to ask you to come talk to us and to our city, and hope that you can do that.
If I can just quickly clarify, there's no existing plans to use bus lanes in Culver City because we're still in the planning stages of where we might use those facilities. If there's an opportunity to leverage either existing or planned or dreamed bus lane facilities within cities, we want to try and maximize that opportunity. We think that much like if you use the Dodger Stadium Express, you see the wonder of getting on a bus and speeding past traffic to get to your event. We want people to see that during the games. But I also believe, and Mark might add to this, that it has to happen before the games. People have to get used to that before the games. So as much as we can do to support things like that in Culver City, I worked for 15 years in Santa Monica to get a bus lane on Lincoln Boulevard. I understand it's a long process with a lot of public pushback. So happy to start now to get to where we need to be in 5 years.
This will be happening over the next few months.
Well, first, thank you for your local leadership and your contributions to Metro. And yes, hopefully jurisdictions can work with the regional transportation agency to make this happen, both now and the lead up, but also just, this is a once in a, 30-year opportunity to get things right, so let's try to do it.
Thank you so much.
Just a quick question. I worked with LAX Linksys on their proposal development, and I'd like to know what your connection is or the integration path with your Olympic planning.
And what was the organization again?
LAX Linksys. It's the People Mover project at LAX that's in construction now, and I believe it's a 10-year project at least. Fluor, and it's a joint venture, JV.
And Mark, I think that's included on the list of projects that we expect to be built by the games.
I believe so.
I believe so.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess we'd say every piece of the puzzle starts creating a better network that grows ridership throughout the system. So again, thank you for helping build that important link, which will be great for visitors coming for the Olympics and before and after.
And LAX is the primary partner. We believe that will be the major gateway. There are a number of other gateways in our city, but LAX is the primary gateway, and there will be a lot of focus on making that an inviting experience. So certainly that will help move people through and out of the facility.
Hi, thank you all. It's very interesting. And so I have a question about getting innovation out into the world to make it a better place and leave a legacy through the Olympics. Did France partner with their local incubators and the local innovation ecosystem to get those projects out, and will Los Angeles do that same thing?
So yes, we are doing it in Paris, working very closely with all organizations who work on making innovation a reality. So, and also abroad. So we try to solicitate innovation coming from abroad and to make them come to the Paris region. So yes, we do it.
And the LA28 is working with organizations like the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator, and I'll make a plug. I came to Los Angeles 28 by way of Urban Movement Labs, a really exciting local nonprofit organization here that facilitates transportation innovation. So as much as we can leverage those organizations, we want to make that happen.